Time for a quick check on our wellness, or the wellness of the left. It's not good. Not reflected in this image, which is getting a ton of backlash online for good reason. That is a woman holding a sign in protest of Republican Virginia gubernatorial candidate Winsome Earle-Sears. The sign reads, as you can see, "Hey Winsome, if trans can't share your bathroom, then blacks can't share my water fountain." As interesting as anything else in that sign is how it is her possessive water fountain, my water fountain. That was held up in front of Sears as she attended an Arlington County School Board meeting and spoke out against a policy that permits bathroom access based on gender identity. But it gets even worse. Now, a Democrat official in Virginia wrote this on X. What happened in Arlington wasn't just about a meeting. It was about the climate Winsome Sears is creating, one where contempt is currency and neighbors are turned against each other. You see, that is the ultimate in victim blaming. It's Winsome Sears' fault for that woman's horrific sign. Democrats are showing their true colors, and Republicans, like Virginia current Governor Glenn Youngkin, they're showing support for Sears.
A U.S. Marine, a mom, a first-generation American. Winsome lived the American dream and will fight for it every day, just like she has her whole life.
Virginia Lieutenant Governor and gubernatorial candidate Winsome Earle-Sears joins me now. Lieutenant Governor, thank you for being with us here today. I know you've spoken on this, but I want to get your reaction. You see, first, your reaction when you heard about or you saw that sign.
You know, at first, when I was shown the sign, I was confused. My brain wasn't wanting me to understand what was really happening. And then 5 minutes later, I looked at it again and I thought, oh, my God, why? But here's the problem, Will. It's not just that sole woman. She was standing with that sign for a whole hour among 150 to 200 Democrats. They saw the sign and never once said, take it down. But I tell you, if it had said something else, they wouldn't have told her to take it down. They would have ripped it out of her hands. That kind of hatred, that kind of anger is amazing to me because, you know, my dad came in '63 when it was a really bad time for us, and I thought we'd gotten past that. And these are the very same people who say that they love everybody more than Republicans. Well, here I am. I'm an immigrant, and I'm a black woman. Where's the love? So we've got to get past that again. And my opponent, Abigail Spanberger, it took her a whole day before she said anything about it, her own self. And it was because I finally said to her, it's cowardice. You want to be governor of our great Commonwealth of Virginia, and you have said nothing. You cannot lead from behind. You must come forward. These are your policies that this woman is defending.
It's shocking that no one in this woman's life, as she was leaving the house that morning, said, that's the sign you want to go with, Gladys? It doesn't seem like the sign that would have gotten universal approval, but it has gotten some approval from other Democrats. I looked this up. I'm sorry I looked down while you were talking because I just want to make sure I got this man's name. It's Mark Bruklowski, and he is involved in the Rules Committee for the DNC or something in Virginia. He's involved with the Democratic Party in Virginia, and he says it's your fault, Lieutenant Governor. He says you've created the climate that has led to things like that sign.
And what are we trying to do? What was I there at the school board for? You know, I'm a former vice president of the Virginia State Board of Education, so I've sat where those board members have sat, but on a higher level. And the objective, Will, we've got to have our children have a good education. It's not about your political ideas, not about your culture wars. It's about simply educating the children. That's your only job. That's your one job. And that's what the parents are sending their children to school for. And in fact, we have parents now of 2 boys in our Loudoun County system who have been disciplined, and they're labeled now sexual harassers for simply upholding what their parents want, which is they're trying to get their 2 young boys to respect women, to honor women. And so the boys said, we're not comfortable undressing in front of a girl in the locker room and vice versa. So the taxpayers' money are being used against them.
Right. We saw that story. We did that story here on the Will Cain Show. Lieutenant Governor, by the way, Mark Bruklowski is the vice chair for rules for Virginia Democrats. It's interesting now. What are the rules for Democrats? I know that education is a big issue in your state. I know it was for Governor Glenn Youngkin. I know it is again in your race for governor. And I know that you're talking about children. I do want to ask you, because I always have found you very thoughtful, Lieutenant Governor, insightful. And I can't help but my own curiosity on how someone who purports to be driven by empathy, who supposedly, according to their own ideology, stand up for the little man, finds themselves in a crowd holding up a sign that says, "Blacks can't drink at my water fountain." How do you explain that behavior?
You know, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., when he was fighting for our civil rights with so many others, he said, "It is not the insults of my enemies that I will remember, but the silence of my friends." And I didn't want parents who are being silenced because you see what they've done to me. I didn't want them to not know that somebody cares about their children, that somebody is willing to come and fight for them. And that's why when I was offered the security issue was to go through the back door, I said, no, I'm going to walk through the front and I'm going to face the same gauntlet as the folks that I'm trying to represent. And I'm representing all children, not just any side's children. I want all children to learn. Right. But is it your job to force your ideology? No. And parents need to know that I am in the ring with them, but Abigail Spanberger, my opponent, she's nowhere to be found.
Well, for what it's worth, my opinion is that when you play the victimhood Olympics and you see the world through the oppressor and oppressed lens and you drink from that poison chalice of identity politics, one day you look up and all these identities collide and you find yourself anti-black and pro-trans, or anti-pride, as we saw in Canada, and pro-Palestinian. They clashed in a parade in Ottawa. You can't play this game. You just got to treat individuals as individuals and treat facts as facts and truth as truth. And go ahead, Lieutenant Governor.
I was just in a store this morning, and an older black woman came up to me and she gave me a big bear hug, and she said, "I'm a Democrat. I'm not a Republican, but I'm so sorry for what they did to you," because she remembers back when all this was okay to say it. And you notice that the sign went from me to black people as a whole. Folks, we can't live this way. This is not right. And all I'm doing, it's not what I'm against, it's what I'm for. I'm for everyone's rights. But one group cannot have more rights than another. This is America. We have to maintain everyone's rights.
We'll be watching your race in Virginia. Thank you for your time, Lieutenant Governor Sears. Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.